What is going on, everybody? How's everyone doing? It is Tuesday afternoon, which means it is Modcast time with the three amigos, Alex and Jason, and of course, myself. Jason, how are you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
I'm good, dude. I wrote my column last night, finished it up this morning, so it's been a somewhat slow afternoon. Got some kid stuff to take care of this evening, but it's a good Tuesday for me, Anwar.
All right, well, that's good. You got to have a practice of some sorts, don't you? Oh, that's too soon.
Always, you nailed it. Yeah, 3-hour gymnastics practice. Yay! Get put up. I don't sit there and watch her, man. I drop her off and go to the gym or go get a bite to eat or take a nap in my truck sometimes, whatever the day calls for.
And bring your Yeti as well. So is what it sounds like. Hey, I figured, we were thinking about things to talk about, and in the good old yesteryears of quarterback battles, we would do one show a week talking about the QB battles and everything that in turns. And when we had bad quarterbacks, we would spend the entire offseason talking about how that bad quarterback needs to somehow become good. But we don't have that problem this year. We have a good quarterback who is striving, I guess, for greatness. We don't really talk about guys like Quinn Ewers that much. So I figured it might be a good update because we both have seen them, obviously, at practice. So I would like for us to have a conversation. Starting off, we're talking about Quinn. Then, of course, we're bleeding into a little bit to Arch. And then, of course, Trey, Jason, and Alex, who I think there's something to be said for him because he's actually pretty impressive. Jason, I'll start on your end. From when you've been out there at the what is Alex?
Rodolfo is just such a hater, man. It's like we're not even talking about Jordan Whittington, and he's talking about the blocker and buy or sell. He'll be a wide receiver coach at Texas in 4 years.
Witt tweeted he got a 3.8 in grad school, so good for Jay Witt on that. By the way,
who cannot love Jay Witt, man? Rodolfo is just—he's got something.
I'm telling you, whoever that woman Rodolfo was talking to, that Jay Witt took away from her, it has really hurt his feelings, and he's carrying this thing with him forever. Rodolfo, get the VIP table next time, and Jordan Whittington won't big boy you. Jason, though,
he might still big boy you. He's basically a model that plays football for Texas, right?
That's very true. Rodolfo, you don't have a shot. Jason, you've seen Quinn out there, and we see him working. He's got to work with some of the receivers, the new guys that are out there. If nothing stands out about Quinn, that's probably a good thing. But what have you seen from Quinn so far since you've been out there?
Yeah, what's funny, Anwar, is you kind of said it at the top of the show. Usually when we go out there, that's all we're watching, or not. I'd say it's all we're watching. 90% of my focus is on the quarterbacks, right? When I went out there to the practice and I took my camera, I took a bunch of pictures. And when at the end I got home and I'm going through, like, seriously, I took like 400 pictures and I ended up posting about 50 of them, right? But I went through and I think I had one picture of Quinn Ewers. I had a couple of Arch, but so the quarterback discussion this year, it's so settled that, it's not a huge storyline. But, Quinn, like in these practices, he always looks the part, right? I think, Alex, maybe we said this last week, but you watch Quinn at practice, it's kind of like watching him at a pro day, right? I mean, this dude can just sling it, and he's got just beautiful command and accuracy. So, I only saw the one practice. I wasn't able to go. It was Monday, I guess, of this week. But, Quinn looks like Quinn when they're out there running routes on air. The dude looks like $1 bazillion, right? So, can he, like you said, take that next step to greatness? He was good last year, but, I think Quinn would tell you he left some stuff on the table last year. Can he take that next step this year? We'll see. But I think he's off to a good start. Sounds like he's got a pretty good connection with the new receivers. That's going to take a little bit of time to kind of build the timing and just kind of the nuances of playing with new receivers, but I think Quinn will be Quinn, and I do expect he'll have a fantastic senior. I guess junior year, right? I guess he'll have a fantastic
year 3.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? You've seen him out there in practice. I know you've heard lots of different things. I mean, these guys ain't catching balls and looking good if they ain't got a quarterback getting it to them. What's been your impression so far of Quinn in year 3?
Quinn and Arch, man, are dropping it in the bucket, but Quinn specifically, just even. even at the pro day, right? You go to that pro day and you hear it's clear that there were scouts and people there watching Quinn too. Watching him just like they're watching the other guys. And during that pro day, I think there were 2 passes from him that were off target out of all of them. And he was throwing balls to Keelan Robinson and JT Sanders and Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell. And I mean, it's just like, do you guys remember when David Ash would throw versus air at those pro days and stuff?
Yeah.
Like David Ash versus air, it's just like there's not, it's like I was like, man, there will never be anything this good. There were scouts saying just like, golly, could 4 years after his eligibility's run out, he's still coming back and throwing at pro days. There are people, saying like, what's his deal? Is he, is he trying to make a roster, stuff like that? And Quinn even puts that, Quinn makes that guy look no good. You know what I mean? It's just whenever you hear about Quinn's rare arm talent and you hear people talk about it, and maybe whenever you just watch him on the football field, you think like, well, he's good. And that Big 12 championship was awesome. And I've seen him have big games and stuff. He's good, but gosh, people always talk about how he's got rare arm talent and that he's just has this, this superpower, right? And I'm not sure I see a superpower when I watch him in the football games. And to that, I'd say, well, I mean, I could understand why you could be a little bit confused by not seeing how Quinn just does it in drills, throwing it versus air. He slings it. He puts it in just the right spot. And I think that's why a lot of people, that's why Sark and some of us in the media, and we'd said that, at some point we're confident that this thing's going to get put together because we've seen how it is at the very top level when he's, versus air and when he doesn't have to process things and all the rest. And he's gotten better, as far as an in-game quarterback throughout his time at Texas. I was like Jason and thinking, I figured that, I didn't know we were going to have this as the topic, right? I figured you were just going to come in with the regular, like, hey, guys, it's the Modcast, the old catch. Like, tell me what's on your mind from spring ball, And what I was going to say was that, we've talked about the wide receivers and we've talked about we've talked about how stuff is shaking up with maybe the offensive line. And we've talked about the DBs and we've talked about the defensive line and sort of how the depth chart looks at all these spots and all. And it was funny as we haven't talked much about quarterback, and that was going to be my point, is that if we're not talking much about it, it's like the old Anthony Hill thing from the other day, right? Somebody said, why haven't I heard anything about Anthony Hill? And I was on the show with Chad that day, and I said, well, it's just, you haven't heard me talk much about Anthony Hill because I go out there and I see Anthony Hill out there. He looks like Anthony Hill. I know what Texas has in this guy. It's like, it's like, it would have been like last year, people asking, like, why haven't I heard much about Bijan Robinson? It's like, well, don't you know about Bijan? Is they reporting to you that Bijan's good? It's kind of been the same thing with Quinn, man. He's, I think he looks good. I think I'd be interested to hear from you. Like, I think he looks like the weight that he's put on is good. I felt like he didn't look very good the year before last, right? Maybe a little bit kind of, I don't want to say doughy. I mean, he's in much better shape than I am, but then to me, it's like Quinn Ewers right now coming into this season and this spring football period right now, his body actually looks like he's at a weight where it's not anything that, it's gotten out of control one way or he's gone way too far the other way to get the weight down like it felt like last year, right? It feels like he's at a good natural kind of weight right now, somewhere in that 205 to 210 that we've been talking about.
205.
Right. I think that, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he looks pretty sturdy, man. I wouldn't be surprised if, by the time we get into fall, he's gonna have to go through summer workouts and stuff. And they always lose a bunch of water weight during that time. But I wouldn't be surprised if eventually sometime during the season, he's playing somewhere near a 208, 210. And that's where I'd like him. I think he's on his way there right now. I think he looks the most naturally comfortable in his body that I've seen. I'm on record as saying I thought he was a little bit too skinny last year. People are saying, hey, he cut out Chick-fil-A. He looks so good. I'm like, does he look good or does he look a little bit too small? I think he looks a lot better now, just more naturally comfortable within his frame, and he looks like Quinn Ewers. And telling fans that Quinn Ewers is good is something that You know, I'm not sure people need to hear it, but Quinn looks really good out there. It's just there are just other things that I'm just much more curious about, like how the depth chart's lining up in certain spots. It's like that isn't anything that's front of mind for me out there as far as going out there just finding out about it, learning on it, and reporting it. I see Quinn doing what he does, and that's kind of how it's been in practice so far.
Jason, he's at 205. Sark said he would like him to gain another 3 to 5 pounds before the season. So, Sark wants him somewhere at that, as Alice is referring to, that 208 to 210 mark. Do you think Quinn at 210, for you, Jason, does that reduce the potential for injury in your amount in your mind at all, or when a 240-pound guy just falls on you, it just kind of is what it is, and there's not much you can really do about it? But did you feel like last year a little bit too small, and do you want to see a little bit more weight on him in this season?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, listen, he's missed considerable action in both seasons as a starter, right? So, and I know last year when he really leaned up, there were conversations before the season. I think maybe we even had him on the modcast. I don't even remember, but dude, is he going to be durable enough at that weight to withstand the entirety of the season? And it ended up he wasn't. So yeah, I think anytime you're adding, weight, especially good weight, like this is obviously good weight, I think that's going to increase your durability. There's some dumb luck that goes into some of these injuries too. Like you said, when a 240-pound dude basically body slams you and his body weight's on top of you, crazy things happen with shoulders and collarbones. And
that's only Savion Red size, man. Some of these guys get a lot bigger than 240.
Well,
right?
It's crazy. Like when I think of Quinn, he's listed. I have the roster. How tall is he listed, Anwar? 6'2"?
I don't know. Let me see. I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. 6'2".
And what's Arch listed at?
Got to be 6'5".
Let's see.
Number 16, 6'4", 220.
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to say 6'5" myself.
Trey Owens 6'5", 236. So Quinn. I mean, listen, he's taller than me. I'm 6 foot, so he's bigger than me. But he's not a big quarterback. I don't know why. Like in high school, I just kind of had this perception of him as being pretty tall, big quarterback. But he gets to the college level, he's not your prototypical, Peyton Manning.
But he slings it. That was the thing about it.
He's got the big time arm talent.
Yeah,
But when I was at practice, dude, all those quarterbacks came running down the sideline. I think Alex, it might have been you were like, "Hey, dude, you better watch out." And I stepped back and almost got ran over. And I'm like, "Holy shit, man! Arch is big, dude. He's a big, tall dude, and he is thick and filled out." I don't get that impression when I look at Quinn. I don't look at Quinn as being a big quarterback. But to your point on where, so I think adding some weight, good weight, I think will probably help with his durability. Obviously, you got to have some luck that goes into that, as I said. But Quinn is not what I would consider a big framed quarterback. He's not super tall, so the durability questions might always be a little bit of an issue with Quinn. But it would sure be nice for the Texas team, but for Quinn's future to see him have a full season of full health too. Because if he gets dinged up again this year, scouts are going to take note of that, and they're going to be like, "Hey, that's 3 years in a row that this guy has not been able to withstand a college season. How's he going to manage a 17-game NFL season?" So maybe, hopefully, for Quinn's sake, with the added weight, maybe that increases his durability this year, and that'd be good for him, good for Texas.
Well, Jason, first of all, that has been the thing that scouts had talked about, and you're saying college goes back to high school. He was banged up in high school, and so really the last 3 years that he's played, he's had to fight injuries. He's had that rib injury in high school, and some will tell you that
through it. But yeah, exactly, you're right. The state championship game, he was banged up, and that's right.
Man, what does that say though about his arm talent though? That he's always been he's never been the prototypical guy size wise. He's always had the injury concerns. And people just overlook it and still making the number one quarterback in the country. Because they just look at him in these settings, like these practices that we see throwing against air, and they see what we see, and that's why we don't talk about Quinn, because he looks like Quinn Ewers out there.
It's funny, Alex. I was at an Elite 11 regional camp last year, and I remember when Quinn did the Elite 11 national. Of course, he qualified for nationals, and I wasn't there. I was out in California, but He didn't finish in terms of their rankings and their little competitions. He didn't finish incredibly high, but I just remember the people that were there, even at that competition where it's the best quarterbacks in the country, they were like, it just comes off of Quinn Ewers' hand differently than everybody else out here, man. So, I mean, his arm talent, you go watch him, like you said, at a pro day, which I wasn't there, but, or just at a practice kind of throwing routes on air. It's just different when Quinn Ewers tosses the ball around. Yeah.
Jason, staying there for a second when you talked to Sarkisian about both of those guys, Quinn and Arch. And I did ask him about that. I guess it was, what was it, yesterday? I don't know. The days are all running together at this moment, but I think it was, today's Tuesday. So yes, but yesterday. And he said, look, Quinn looks like a guy who's in year 3 and Arch looks like a guy in year 2. And he talked about their progressions. But the thing that he said that he felt like was going to be really important was going to be their command. Okay. He's like, is that not their ability, not their things that they know, but basically their ability to apply it. And he talked about, listen, he started talking about like the young receivers that he had, like DeAndre Moores of the world, Jonte Cooks, Niblets, right? And some of the new faces and that they have. And in order to make those guys be elite, he talked about the quarterback has to be able to play up to the best of their ability to get the most out of these wide receivers. So he said the challenge for Quinn and Arch is that they have to play up to their ability. And he said they're both doing a good job, but they have to play up to their ability in order to help out these receivers. When you think about that and think about the young guys, and coupled with the new guys, how important not only is it for Quinn, but for Arch to be able to give all those guys some really good looks in practice in order to be the team that Sarkisian eventually wants come September, October, and November, and December, and of course, January.
Well, if history is an indication, Arch is probably going to be needed at some point, right? So I think it's important to get both those guys reps with those top receivers to get their timing, get their comfortability down. And Quinn, when he came in his first year at Texas, that was one of the kind of knocks on him behind the scenes, right? That he wasn't studying maybe enough. He wasn't doing the mental stuff quite enough. We saw him kind of take that next step last year. Obviously, this third year should be even another step in that development. But I don't think that's a big issue. I think both those dudes, Quinn year 3, Arch year 2, will have a good command of the offense at this point. They certainly should. But I do think, again, I think the timing with these new receivers and just kind of, anytime you're losing your top 3 receivers and your starting tight end, there's going to be some timing issues, some little discrepancies on how this guy runs a route versus maybe what Adonai Mitchell did or Worthy or, JT Sanders. They've been thrown to Gunnar Helm, so that's not that big of a deal. But anytime these guys can get increased reps, this spring and even in the offseason, frankly, just go out there and throw the ball around with those guys. I think that'll help them. But I would expect personally, I think we'll see both those guys take a mental progression step in year 3 and year 2, respectively. I would certainly expect that.
Alex, what do you think? Because you and I, we were talking about the wide receiver depth earlier, and I know you've had some reports. You've talked about, DeAndre Moores of the world, but you talked about Ryan Wingo getting some reps. Like, how important is it for, Arch as far as making sure these guys get some quality looks, and Arch not only having the quality looks for a lot of these backups, because you got guys who are fluctuating from first to second. How important is Arch is as far as making sure these wide receivers are ready as well?
Well, I mean, you see it in practice. So for people that might not know how they do this, it's like Quinn and Arch both throw to these guys during the routes on air. Of course, during team drills, you never know. But during team drills, here's the thing, dude. Arch and Parker Livingstone are friends. Arch and Ryan Wingo are friends. Like, these guys throw and they play. And I almost think, like, as I've come up through college and kind of known some of these dudes and just like follow Texas closely and stuff like that, these dudes that are friends, whenever they come in and they play together, they throw together, they work on stuff, even if it's not in the context of like a practice, being with the ones, they go back and they just got done doing these PRPs this whole time during winter conditioning. So these guys have thrown. these guys are smart. I mean, they're players at UT, so I don't necessarily think that that Arch needs to take a quarter of the team drills with the ones to be able to not. It's not like it's gonna be hair on fire with him. I mean, they're running the same plays, and also you're getting a lot of crossover right now. These different alignments and this different personnel stuff, they're getting it going, right? And you're getting, some days Isaiah Bond is out of this is the starting X, and Wingo's working with the twos during team. Some days Isaiah Bond's working with the twos during the team. Golden's generally staying with the twos right now and moving from side to side. The only ones that right now that Arch is not getting work with the ones, right, in the same exact system, the same exact stuff. It was still Steve. It's still Sarkisian. It's the same wide receiver coach. It's everything. Are his two number one guys from all of last year that he came in with, DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook, who were the two guys in the same exact spots on the second team that he was throwing to last year, that he's got the rhythm and the chemistry with. So, man, I'm not concerned any with this whole thing. I don't think there's some kind of deal like it is with the NFL, right? Like a college football team is so much more homogenous. I mean, these guys are friends. You know what I mean? They're friends. They go out and play ball together.
Committed to Texas because Arch came to Texas. I mean, those two were boys long before they even got to Texas.
Yeah, these guys are friends. It's like they would get hyped to have Arch out there. I mean, they wouldn't be happy that the Quinn guy was hurt or that he was missing time or whatever, but they see Arch come in, they get hyped about it, man. Like, that's their guy. So I think that basically, and also even if it wasn't, and it was like clinical and antiseptic, like an NFL team, where you say like, oh God, the backup quarterback's coming in, say for like fantasy football, like sometimes when I'm looking for like, deep plays or deep bench guys or sleepers in DFS and stuff like that, I'll always think about the second team doctrine, right? If there's a wide receiver that's been kind of hurt, that's kind of down right now, and there's some kind of second team guy having to come up and play more meaningful reps, whenever a backup quarterback comes in, I'm like, dude, those guys have been dialing up in practice this whole time. Like I'm going to play that guy in DFS because he's comfortable with him, right? I don't think it works like that in college football. I think that and I just don't think it works like that with the situation at Texas right now. It's based on how the specific pieces, Jonte, DeAndre Moore, he's already got great rapport with those guys. He's getting great rapport as things go with Bond. He's getting great rapport as things go with Wingo. And he, it's like and same with Matthew Golden. And those are the five guys that I would consider to be the key players for, the kind of reps that we're talking about earlier today, and that kind of distribution that we were discussing with Kesh on Overreaction Tuesday earlier. So I think it's fine. I'm not worried about any kind of lack of connection there.
What do you, when you've looked at Arch, when you've been out there, Alex, what stands out to you when you see him? Is it his physical presence? Is it the arm strength? Is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it's. Do you know what stands out to me about Arch? It's like, he's good. He's dropping it in there. He's dropping it in there. I don't think his ball. I don't know what really this means, but maybe his ball doesn't look as pretty as Quinn's. Does that make any sense? Maybe it looks a little bit more drive on the football, a little bit less catchable, a little bit less arc, and giving the receiver the ability to track it downfield and stuff like that. Feels like Arch really kind of zips that thing. He's kind of no nonsense about it. He's kind of a little bit more all business. But he gets it there in the same way. Like, you don't see. You got to get to the third quarterback and the fourth quarterback before you start seeing these things go crazy, like the Malik Murphy stuff from last year, right? That's just the way it is. You don't see these things flying off the, completely out of the wheelhouse whenever Arch throws. I think that the difference is, I don't know if I would consider his arm stronger. I think I think he throws harder. Is that fair? I mean, do you guys agree with that sentiment? I would bet if you took a velocity reading with a radar gun, or like they do at the combine, where you just go and you can just throw it at a bunch of mats, and it measures the velocity of these guys, like how many miles per hour it's going. I would think that your average throw from Arch would probably have a higher MPH, but I'd be curious. But that's just a stupid eyeball thing. I don't have any proof for that. Have you guys notice that, or would you think the same thing?
That's a good question. I think Quinn probably has the capability of hitting a higher velocity rate, but maybe he doesn't always throw it uh, at that same velocity rate, if that makes sense. Maybe he's using 80% of his velocity versus if Arch is using 95% of his velocity. But I'm trying to remember, like when Quinn was in high school, he was training, and his velocity tested right on par with Patrick Mahomes' velocity. So Quinn's got plenty of velocity. I don't remember what the number was. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be completely wrong. But yeah, I honestly I haven't seen enough of Arch to say that, Alex, that I think maybe he throws the ball harder. But I think Quinn I don't know, man. Almar, what do you think? If they're both just going out testing max velocity potential, Arch is so damn big, maybe, but I think I'd probably go
the ball from Arch just doesn't seem to have this the same arc. It just it seems to get there quicker. I don't know, man, but
that's interesting.
I'm very curious about what I'm watching.
I wonder, Alex, too, because I agree with your assessment, Alex. I wonder if it's that young quarterback thing where they feel like I've got to go ahead and zip that thing in there. I kind of like that Malik Murphy. I've just got a gun and I want to show it off. And, in the older quarterback understanding, there's certain, understanding pacing and things to that effect. Like, that's why I wonder, Alex, or is every ball by Arch just like that? It's not a bad thing, but I do, I don't, just to tell you that you're not crazy. Like, I have noticed what you're saying.
And there could also be, it could be something mechanical because Arch has longer arms than Quinn. Arch is taller than Quinn. So obviously his release point is going to be higher. It could be something where the ball is released. It's, he doesn't have to put that initial amount of arc on it to be able to, be able to get it to where it needs to go. So, look, they're both good. I mean, here we are. We're splitting hairs. We haven't had to talk about these guys because they're out there looking good, man. Fans should be happy.
Jason, last thing. Speaking of happy, Trey Owens. I'm gonna be so. Let me go by full disclosure on this one, Jason. When Trey Owens committed, I kind of shoulder shrugged it because Texas already had so many quarterbacks that were on campus, including Malik at that point, right? So you're talking about Arch, you're talking about Quinn, and then they're like Trey Owens committed. I'm like, okay, so what? And I'm like, is this guy ever going to play here? So, but I'll be honest with you, Jason. He is very impressive when he's out there. First of all, from a physique stature, the guy's huge. Like you notice him, and you're like, wait, what the hell is that? And he's 6'5". Like that guy's huge. And when he throws the ball, and granted, when we talk about the guys he's working with, he's not working with some of the upper echelon quote unquote guys, but he does seem to have a connection with them. I just want to know from a guy who knows Trey Owens better than anybody on this show at this moment, does that surprise you at all?
It doesn't. And it's every practice there have been videos popping up, whatever, and it seems like Trey's hitting deep balls, connecting with sometimes it's like usually it's the freshman receivers, but he is making plays. Trey's a big dude. We read it earlier. What is he, 6'5", whatever, 220 something or 230? What was he? But it's funny.
36 or something.
36.
We were actually 36, Jason.
We were talking about him at this Elite 11 camp, me and some other media members, and we're like, in high school, he didn't always put in the work on his body, and he knew it. He knew, hey, when I get up to Texas, I'm gonna have to go through conditioning and kind of, move some weight around, so to speak. It seems like he's done a good job with that. But Onward, I get what you're saying. Hey, you kind of shoulder shrugged when he committed. Okay, a lot of people did. He was. I think at that time he was a 4-star commitment for Texas, but he wasn't a highly, national top 100 ranked guy. He's coming in right after Arch, and obviously Quinn there, and then Malik's there. At the time, Malik's there. But I said at the time, I think he's the perfect quarterback for Texas in that class because you weren't going to get right behind Arch Manning. You weren't going to get, probably the top ranked quarterback. But Trey's a guy who just loves Texas, always has. He's not afraid to compete, dude. I remember talking to him, and he's like, hey, man, I'm going up there, and I'm going to try to win the starting job. And this is what maybe we thought Quinn was going to be gone. And he goes, and if I don't, then I'm going to push Arch to make him better. But I'm coming up there with the mindset of I'm going up there to compete and win that starting job. He was Houston, I believe, touchdown club player of the year. I've got his stats pulled up. Dude, he threw 42 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, over 3,000 yards as a senior. Knocked off Katy in the playoffs in a huge upset win that nobody gave him a real shot to do. And dude, he went on a heater. Like, I'm just going to show you his first 1, 2, 3, 4 games. He had thrown 4 interceptions in about 12 touchdowns. His next games, Omar, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks, 3 touchdowns, 0, 5 touchdowns, 0, 4 touchdowns, 0, 3 touchdowns, 0, 2 touchdowns, 0, 5 touchdowns, 0. That dude, man, he went on a heater in his senior season. And then against Katy, he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against a really good Katy program. So, dude, I've always thought, and we're a week into practices, so he's got a lot of developing to do. But I've always thought Trey, maybe people are overlooking a little bit, and maybe I think he's a little bit better than people give him credit for. I thought he was underranked by the recruiting services. He was an All-American Bowl. I mean, played down there in the All-American Bowl down in San Antonio, held his own down there for sure. And Trey's a confident dude. I love Trey because he was always, anytime I needed an interview, Trey would give me an interview. So Trey's my dude, just from a personal standpoint. So maybe I had a little bit of bias there, but I just like the kid as a person. But yeah, I thought from a ranking perspective and a recruiting perspective, people were undervaluing him. And through 1 week of spring ball, and again, I know we're talking 1 week of spring ball.
Sure,
it looks like maybe he was a little bit undervalued. He's got some real potential there.
Alex, obviously we won't see Trey Owens this season, right? If we do see Trey Owens, something bad happens. So we understand that. But from when you're seeing him in spring, do you take any mental notes and just say, you know what, guy looks good. I'm going to check back with this guy in another couple of years.
I mean, he looks good. He doesn't look like Quinn or Arch to me, and it isn't fair to expect him to, right? It's just he just got here, but his placement, like his arm talent, I don't think it's quite the same right now for what he's being asked to do. But you've obviously been a little bit more focused on him, than I have. I've just kind of been watching the wide receivers and thinking that maybe there have been just a lot more balls, a lot more errant throws than you've just with Arch and Quinn, man, they're dialed in right now, dude. There aren't these errant throws. There kind of are some whenever you get down to him and was it still Cole Lord or Tatum or something?
There's a couple other guys. Yeah. It is a pretty significant, noticeable drop off though from the first two, because like Alex said, they'll have Quinn and Arch throwing together, and then they'll take off, and then the next two step up, and then the next two, and it's like, oh, it's kind of that second and third group. Sometimes you never know where that ball's going to go, but yeah.
Jason, last thing, and if we can either hold this for another day or not, or you want to give us a quick update on that 2025. So we're talking quarterbacks, where we know KJ Lacey is ready to go, and we're still eagerly kind of have some PTSD, waiting to see if he comes through or anything to that effect, but we're expecting him to go through and eventually sign and just have some crazy moments here and there. Am I reading this right, that there could potentially be 2 quarterbacks that Sark takes in 2025?
Possibly. I would be minimally surprised, Anwar. I think they'll probably just take one and keep that train rolling and take one in 2026. But, KJ's pretty well locked in. I mean, there were some nervous moments for Texas fans when he was visiting Alabama and Auburn, and he still might take some other visits, but man, I mean, he was at Texas on Monday. He's coming back April 6th. He's coming back April 20th for the orange-white game, and then he's got his official visit. And those are the only visits he has set up. So KJ,
if they feel good about Lacey, why are they even messing around with anybody else, dude? That feels weird.
Well, they're talking. It's Keelan Russell, and he's committed to SMU. He's out of Duncanville, right? Yeah. So they went to scout other Duncanville players, and like, hey, this quarterback's pretty damn good, and he is. Man, he's a Rivals 250 guy, and he was at the Elite 11 last weekend, regional camp, and he got an invitation to the Elite 11 finals and so did KJ Lacey. Alex, it's a good question, dude. But in today's day and age of the portal, you just never know. I mean, if something happens with KJ and he peels off, I mean, maybe you got to kind of have some other irons in the fire. Now, are they going to offer Keelan Russell? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. He's hopeful when he's coming in for the orange-white game. Keelan is. He's hopeful that he will get an offer at that point. But I don't know. We'll see how it unfolds. But yeah, Anwar, the possibility maybe of taking 2 quarterbacks, I think, is on the table. And both Keelan and KJ said, "Hey, man, if that's how it goes down, I'll come in and compete, and I'll try to win the job." But it's certainly, I think, something that's on the table. But I'm kind of with you, Alex. To me, as long as KJ is proving to me that he's still locked in, I probably just roll with KJ, and then you just kind of keep that cycle rolling and try to take another one in the next recruiting cycle. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting when he comes in for that April 20th spring game, because Sark went up there and they were looking at Alex January, and it was a couple of years ago. So I mean, Duncanville always has players,
It's
right?
always someone.
Yeah, exactly. So they're up there looking at those players like, whoa, they talked to Keelan Russell after the game, let me clarify, not at the game, but a week later or whatever. They told the Duncanville staff, like, dude, he checks all the boxes in terms of what we look for in quarterback. So we'll see what happens on how it unfolds, but they're definitely having conversations with Keelan Russell. He just talked to him on the phone as recently as last week. So I mean, those conversations are ongoing.
It's interesting, Jason, is that I've had people. There's a video. Have you seen this video? I think it's on Instagram, about Keelan Russell, and basically call him like the top quarterback in Texas, and they start showing his highlights and so on and so forth. And I've had my friends in Florida send me this video that's been circulating a lot on social media of Keelan Russell on how good he is, and so there's definitely a buzz, about
he's
him.
a Rivals 250 guy. So I mean, he's a nationally pretty highly ranked quarterback. So SMU, he's committed to SMU. He's actually going to Ole Miss this weekend for an official visit.
Oh, do you know what happened there, right?
Well, and
that's Alex Brown. He did.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, there you go. Well,
the old GM from SMU just took the GM job at Ole Miss.
I didn't think about that. You're right. But if Lane Kiffin's willing to bring you in, and they've already offered, so that tells me Lane Kiffin knows what he's looking for in quarterbacks. I saw that super chat. So
is this an inside joke or something?
No, he's referencing on my desk. My wife made me this for Christmas a couple years ago, but Howard Stern said so, because every time she swears I would leave her for Howard Stern, and because I'm obsessed with Howard Stern, and every time she says something, and I'm like, no, that's not true. And she says, how do you know? Because Howard Stern said so. So my wife made me what Howard Stern said so sign. So that's the inside joke.
It was so random that I knew it had to be something that was inside. It was just too good to be true. Jason, you want to give me a final thought? You want to just do some quick parting shots before we all head out of here?
I don't really have anything. Like we were talking before. Oh, I do have a parting shot on where this. Let me circle back. We're hoping that maybe we'll get a practice availability tomorrow or Friday. I'll be down at Texas Relays on Friday, so it'd be nice. I'll be down on campus anyways. It'd sure be nice if they opened up practice for a little bit for the media. Onward, this is super random, talking about my sign. So on Saturday, my buddy / neighbor and I decided, hey, let's go out somewhere and watch the Texas basketball game. So are you familiar with the field house up here in the Cedar Park area?
Oh, yeah.
Big outdoor thing, that huge screen out there. Unfortunately, they weren't showing the Texas game out on the huge screen. But
you talking about the crossover?
Crossover and field house. All the same deal. So we get up there, and there's somebody like taking tickets. You had to buy tickets. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we got like a comedy show going on. They're like, I said, hey, I wasn't mentally prepared for that, but I love comedy shows. What's the rundown? They go, well, we've got first it's going to be a podcast. It's the Drunk Uncle. I go, what? I go,
what?
Yes, I go,
what?
Who's doing? I was like, holy shit, who's doing this podcast? I go, if they say Anwar Richardson, but it was some other dude.
I'm going to let you in for free.
Yeah. So there's a comedian who has the Drunk Uncle podcast, apparently. But when I heard that, I did a double take. I'm like, wait a second. Who's this dude doing the Drunk Uncle podcast? But yeah. Unfortunately, it was not Anwar Richardson. It was some other.
Just so you know, I started Drunk Unk years ago when we were doing the Yak. Okay,
yes,
so unless that guy dates back to the Yak thing, he may have stolen my idea. So, Alex, what are you thinking?
Oh, I keep on getting these text messages from my friends about all the memes coming up from the Caleb Williams phone thing and his phone and his little. Have you seen him?
No, I don't
I
know.
think it's
I
a
don't know about
basketball game or something like. Just look up Caleb Williams, like pink phone. This is a lot of memes, man, and I'm here for. It's been hard for me. It's been hard for me not to laugh, man. Some of these texts that I've been getting with the various memes and the quotes and tweets and things like that. So yeah, here for all the here for all the Caleb Williams stuff, man. That'll be my final.
Barstool Sports. Caleb Williams caught on live camera feed with a pink phone and wearing what looks to be lipstick. Interesting.
And look at the little. He's got like a little mini purse thing too that's like attached to his phone and stuff. It's just great, man. It's really good.
Yeah, I didn't even see the picture.
2024 has been off to one hell of a start, man. I don't know. I can't keep up, man. I'm just hitting refresh on all kinds of different topics and subjects at this moment. So I guess I got some Caleb Williams stuff to catch up on. Thank you guys for checking out the Modcast. It is the Three Amigos, Alex, Jason, and myself. Make sure you come back tomorrow morning when Alex and I will be back doing more shows at 9 o'clock in the morning, doing what the hell we call our shows?
The old fashioned show. I think tomorrow we got some buy or sell. Or is buy or sell Wednesdays?
Yeah, Wednesday, buy or sell, which is usually a fun deal. So make sure you guys check that out. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see.